Get ready to cut through the BS with the Voiceover Gurus. It's the Voiceover Gurus podcast.
So, all right. Welcome back to another episode of the Voiceover Gurus podcast. I'm Linda Bruno. It's been a little while since I released an episode. I think this is going to be 152. So I've taken a little break. You know, the holidays came and taken a little breather. But I'm excited today because I actually have a guest who is in a genre that we have yet to discuss on the podcast. And I would like to welcome the lovely and talented Akira Lee Watanabe.
Thank you for having me.
See, you had to have a big introduction.
Aww.
Okay, we couldn't just go into it. So you do the fun stuff. You do the fun stuff that a lot of us voice actors don't get to do. And we'll get to that. But I'd love to find out, first off, tell me where you're from, how you got rolling into all of this.
Yeah, of course. So I'm originally from Japan, from a town called Yokohama, which is like a port town. And I grew up there and I've lived there for the first 18 years. But it's funny because I went to an international school there, hence my American accent and fluent in English. I was very grateful for that. But our town was really like the first port that opened back up to like the world after kind of like closing off from the world for a long time. So we have like buildings and we have a lot of people who's international companies who's there. So even though we were in this like port small town, like we had a lot of kind of like international communities living there. And it just made it, I think, easier for me to leave Japan, that small island, to go to university in the UK. And that's where I studied and that's where I started being in the entertainment business. And yeah, I think that's how kind of like I went from Japan to the UK and then kind of because in Japan, the entertainment business is very different. It's really hard to kind of like get into unless you know someone. So it was more accessible in the UK. And yeah, like I started learning about acting and where else to learn acting than in the UK. So just got really great training and a really great base over there. And then that's where I started my career. And yeah, did you want to know about the voiceover, how I got into it?
First I'm going to back up a second. So in Japan, as far as production goes, what do you think it's mostly focused on over there as far as their production goes? Because you say it's a tight-knit situation that's difficult to get into. Is voice acting prevalent there at all? Or is it a small little microcosm of the whole business? Or
actually, voice acting is such a big thing over there because we have our animes and like they have amazing talent over there. But it's you go to this one school and you have to do really well on this one school. And then from that, the really talented people, it's just a lot of competition over there and a lot of kind of like I guess it's same with other aspects of things but I digress. It's just very kind of like one way to get into it and one way you're going to make it. So it's kind of like, it was more of a harder thing to break through. Yeah. I think it's a little getting different right now, but back then.
I mean, anime is huge.
Yes.
Huge. Yes. Such a booming genre. And so many, especially younger folks, the Gen Zers are just absolutely in love. I mean, all generations are actually really into anime, so it's fascinating. I think I had read somewhere that there was like similar to having like 4-year university here that was strictly for people that wanted to perform in anime.
Yeah.
It's like, it's serious. This is not like a little part-time. I'm going to take a little class on the weekends,
No, it's like such a commitment. And those who go there are like, this is what I'm doing. I'm like, it's such a craft. And yeah, it's just really, really rigorous. And back then, I think for me, at least, that wasn't in my mind. And like, yeah, but it's just such a craft over there.
So when you did you move to London?
Yes.
Is that where you lived? Okay. So were you pursuing all types of acting, modeling? Were you doing anything else other than just sticking to voice acting?
Oh, actually, I wasn't really, funny thing, voice acting wasn't in my like view. And I went to London just to study like stage and study a little bit of screen acting, but acting in general. So voice acting wasn't kind of like in my peripheral, like view. Yeah.
You were thinking of serious things like stage.
Yeah, like I think it's just in the UK, that's the kind of like view about the industry and about the craft. Like you go in, you learn the stage, and then you can learn screen. You have to know the basics, and you learn Stanislavski and all the like the things,
the classics.
And then you go into other things. So that's what I was into when I was in the UK. Yeah.
Okay, so now what made you decide to move to LA? Well, where was the pivot point where you were like, I gotta pack up, I gotta go?
Oh wow, okay. That's a big story, but I will condense it. I think I came over here because I visited my friend, and then I wasn't thinking of moving here. I was just here, and I was going through a difficult time in my life, and I just needed a little bit of a different fresh air. And like I came over here and I stayed with my friend, and then things kind of like I met people who felt really dear to me, and I had this gut instinct that said, I think this is the place to be next. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like I was never the person who was like, I wanted to move to LA. London was a home to me. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. But the gut feeling was so strong. And my friend offered to like host me for like my max amount that I can stay in the US. And like I was like, by the end of it, I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna come here.
Oh wow. You fell in love.
Yeah, I fell in love, and I just felt right for me to be here, and like more than logically. But I didn't know if I could stay here because I didn't have a visa or anything like that. But I met the right people who introduced me to the right people to like convince me that like you can do it. This is how I did it. You get this artist visa and then you prepare these things. So I started preparing it, and then I don't know, like I just believed in my gut, and I was like, I went back to London, packed up all my stuff. I didn't know I was going to get a visa yet or not. I just said goodbye to everyone. I packed up all my stuff. I went back to Japan. I started processing my visa. And then, yeah, like everything fell into place. I had enough to support me for a visa. And then I came back here, and that's
that's how it happened. But you got to follow your gut instinct.
Yeah.
If something's telling you that this might be the right thing, why not?
Yeah.
Why not try? So when was that you moved to LA?
Oh, that was the winter of 2022. Yeah, that was
okay. So relatively recent, right? I mean, we think about it.
I might be wrong. Oh, I think
post-COVID
too.
Post-COVID.
Post-COVID, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's sad we do the timeline is based on was it pre-COVID or post-COVID? I know reality of our world.
Yeah.
But okay, so you moved to LA. So was your intention to pursue voice acting, or because I think you've done some other things too, right? You've done some like movies, TV shows. Tell me.
Yes. So I was in a small part for Yesterday, which is a Danny Boyle film. And then I was on stage. And so I've done different things. So my goal coming over here was screen and voiceover. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in LA, the voiceover market is fantastic.
It is. It's kind of
You know.
really exciting because there's a lot more kind of like training. There's a lot more people. There's a lot more community things. And yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely a different vibe from New York.
Gotcha.
We're a little more of a serious bunch over here. So, there's obviously a lot of work out here, and now it doesn't even matter where you live. But I always tell folks, especially if they want to get into video games or animation, that LA is really the place to go because you're going to meet people, you're going to network.
Yeah.
But so the video game process, because you've done a few video games now. I see this Tom Clancy's Division 2. Which looks pretty incredible on the website. And then Arknights is a mobile game.
Yes.
So tell me the audition process for a video game. What's that like?
So funnily enough, Tom Clancy's Division 2 was my first ever job. And
oh, wow.
I never had training so let me just rewind and let me just tell you about, because that covers how I got into voiceover as well.
Okay.
But so there was this studio in London called Pinewood Studios who was looking for an East Asian actor with an American accent. And my friend was already doing voiceover with them, and he recommended me to their casting team. And then I think I did some samples, and then they were like, okay, let's go. And I didn't know what it was for. And they just put me in there, and voiceover was like new to me. So I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is this for?
Oh my goodness.
They literally threw me, like I was in the deep end. But so I was like, I didn't know mic techniques. I didn't know anything. They were just like,
wow.
Okay, this is the character. Like, this is the thing. Do this. And then that was my first ever voiceover anything.
Wow.
So, yeah.
But you had the foundation though with stage acting, and you had a foundation.
I would like to think so. Yeah. Like all the things that subconsciously was there in terms of training probably supported me in that studio session. And I also had a great director called Ish Tapar. He's a director in film as well, but he also directed a lot of these voiceover session. And he was like, people there was like so kind, and they were like, okay, you need to do this. They were like really super supporting. So that helped as well. But that was the casting process for that one.
Okay. So what was the casting process for, what other games have you done is there anything more than the Arknights mobile game you want to talk about?
I think Arknights and Ether Gazer, I believe they're by the same company, but I auditioned that through my London agent, Yakety Yak. They're a wonderful bunch. And yes, exactly. I just didn't want the name to be wrong, but Melissa Grillo, it was the casting director who casted for Arknights, and she sent me the audition, and I was doing this while I was like visiting LA, and my friend who I was staying with was a voiceover actor. Her name is
perfect.
Crystal Lee, and she's wonderful, and she was like there helping me with all the auditions that I was getting during chaotic times. And Melissa Grillo auditioned me. I sent her my take, and she liked it and probably sent it to the YoStar team, and they loved it. And yeah, that's how I got the audition. But because they do different mobile games, I think I got on their radar by voicing
Ah.
one. And
Mm-hmm.
because I did Arknights, they probably wanted me to read for Ether Gazer. And then that's how I
Right.
got those two roles, because I got on their radar.
Mm-hmm. Now, the auditioning process, do you get a breakdown of the character that you're auditioning for? Is it multiple characters? Do you get...
So I think it was just one character at one time. It wasn't kind of like 10 breakdowns and do as many. I think it was just like, okay, we're casting for this character. And then later on, if I didn't get it, they're like, okay, can you audition for this character as well? Yeah.
Right. And so everything really is grounded in your acting background, because that is for video games. This isn't some like character-y thing. It's more of you embodying the character,
Yes.
right? And then performing the lines. And is it just like, I mean, I've done a few auditions I don't do a lot of video game stuff. So I've done a few auditions and seen them. But from what I've found, it's like several lines and they give you the best breakdown. Sometimes they give you a drawing of what the character looks like, But I'm solely voice acting and voiceover in like more traditional promo and things like that. So for me, I'm thinking, well, where do I get my head for this? How do I wrap my head around this? Do you approach it as an actor solely? Because like I approach scripts like a voice actor, like, okay, well, here's the transition point. And, so how with the types of things that you've auditioned for and booked, obviously, you strictly go at it as an actor.
I think so. And that's something that I'm trying to educate myself more of, because I came from just a purely acting background. So I don't know the techniques or how to use my voice. And I'm trying to get better at that and teach, learn. But yeah, I think I come from a very acting background. It's like, what are they feeling right now? What are they going through? What are their thought process? And just kind of like also breaking down line by line what that means. And for example, if they have, oh, he did this, or like, just make sure you're clear at where you're coming from. So you have something internally to back the emotion internally to back when you're saying that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're finding something within you that can link your performance to what is being requested. Is that what I'm thinking?
Yeah, like something that would activate something in my voice, because as we all know, voice is such a telling thing. If you're faking it or if it's real, there's something
You can tell.
within us that we immediately click when what they're expressing is truthful or not. And we get activated by listening to truthful things. Like, for example, if someone is shouting at their daughter to move out of the way from an oncoming truck, like there's that kind of like, there's something, if your body believes that, it would be a total different read from when your body doesn't believe that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think, especially for video games, and a lot of what I learned a lot from the doing Division 2 is really about letting your body believe what you're imagining and then performing that. And I think I've kept
That's
on
great.
that for video games often, is like not to kind of intellectualize it, which I sometimes fall into the pit of, but like, just really getting yourself there and imagining and making sure that you're clear with what you're imagining, so your body can produce the truth when you're giving that sample to the person. Yeah.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's a great way to put it too. Because I know as voice actors that don't do creative genres like that. And I know for me too, we do get intellectual on it and we overthink it. We overthink the script and we think about how it should sound as opposed to letting it go and genuinely performing it to get that authenticity.
Yeah.
And that's usually the biggest barrier, which is why someone who comes from an acting background has an easier time. Whereas I'm thinking, I mean, I've done small acting. I've been doing this for 30 years, so it's a very long time ago. But I'm so trained to think technically and to look at things and break them down, as opposed to approaching it more as an actor and embodying the character itself and figuring out exactly what's the motivation, how would I feel if I was in that situation. So, I mean, that's why that's great. Now, let me ask you, what's the process like for the actual recording of the game? Like, how long does it take?
Ooh, so for Tom Clancy's one, I did multiple roles. I think I did like 5 roles and like two that has like a name and a proper character build around it. But that was, I think, 4-hour sessions twice a week for give and take 6 weeks. Yeah. And there was period in time when I didn't have anything and then they would call me back, but that's how the session was. And for Arknights, it was intense because it was, I think, 4 hours and there was a lot of script. And I think we had like 2 or 3 sessions and we had to go through all of them. So it was kind of like very time crunched, but the team was wonderful. So they kept me like on time. And also they were really generous that like, if we were kind of lagging behind, they were like, okay, we'll do another session because this is a lot. And they were super understanding. Yeah.
So now for something that you have to do multiple characters for, how do you approach that? Like you said, you have to do, for the Clancy one, it was 2 characters that were like main characters. Like I know you have a different character description around each one. So this is all foreign for me as to how to approach it. Cause I know how to change my voice, but in this, this is a full character. So what do you just do? Character study again on this other character and then just come up with relatables for yourself to be able to lock into it? Or
it's really funny because for like Tom Clancy's one, I never got anything before the session. So it was always in the session that I got anything. So I got the script. Well, it was really as we go on, I got the script. They just put like this line on the monitor and then we'll do it like 2 or 3 times. And then the next one. And then the director would be like, now you're doing this and now you're doing that. But I don't know if this is the same for other projects as well, but it was really coming up on the spot with the director. So we'll do one character at a time and he'll be like, this is the character that we're doing, and this is a description. What kind of tone should we do? And it was so collaborative. And I was like, okay, I think it will come from this. And she's really kind of like visceral and fight or flight and things like that. So that's where I want to do it. And then I trusted him that when I was slipping up in terms of like, if I didn't sound like the character anymore, he would be like, oh, let's do it again. And let's re-listen to the first one. So we kind of so it was kind of really collaborative but it was all done within the session.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you find that beneficial to not get it in advance and have to be more of an improvisational on the spot, figure it out? See, I think I would like that.
Yeah, I think for an overthinker like me, I think it's a lot more fun and easier when it's like that. You might not get the collaboration all the time, but it's certainly, that was a great experience for me where it was like, it felt so collaborative and someone was always there to kind of like safeguard you from not doing great performance, like making sure that you're in this person's character's voice. So yeah, I think it's better like than coming, because sometimes you can prepare so much and you can be so rigid about what you're preparing that when you're going in, your performance gets rigid because you put so much, okay, this person is coming from here and that this is how I would perform when she's angry and things like that. But yeah, I think it becomes too rigid. And then when they tell you to go out of your comfort zone, I think that character that you kind of held on to tightly just goes out of the window, and then you sound like them anymore. So I feel like there's really good benefits to just doing it on like the day and then working with someone for it. Yeah.
Do you have any experience? Have you done any improv classes or workshops or anything? I know there's a lot of that stuff out in LA.
No, I would like to, because it's such a big thing over here. And I've only done it in acting classes, like improv, just like a couple of classes, but not to a point where it's like almost like its own craft of like it comes in threes and things like that. So
yeah. I'm not a fan of performing that. I feel like it's too restrictive, but I do just like enjoy the idea of having to come up with something on the spot, because I just think it helps to keep everything so fresh, which is like, I would not want, probably I would have preferred, like I mentioned, to do the improv version of the character, because my brain, I know I would belabor and I would go over a script over and over and over, and I would have all these, thoughts in my head as to how it should sound and why it would sound that way. And then again, it might be a little fall flat, because it would lose its, and then getting directed differently. It's like, oh, wait a minute. I was thinking about acting that character out this way, but fascinating. So do you think that's like your favorite genre to do? Do you like to do video games, or is there other stuff that you prefer? I see you did an audiobook too. You do a few of those, right? You've done Disney's Mulan.
Oh that was that was so fun, but it was so hard because I love Mulan, but the client was very specific. So it's for this thing where it's so cool. I think it's called Yoto Player, but it's like this box where you put a card in, and then depending on what the card is, it reads the book to the kids. Oh. Yeah, and so they can pick and choose. It's like a mini library, like audiobook library.
Oh, how cute.
Yeah. But it was so hard because the client was like, you cannot sound like the characters in the movie. So I was like, oh, this is like the Mushu's way of saying it. And they would like, you sound like you're doing him. So
too close.
I'm too close to him. So don't do that. And
well, why? Why did they not want you to? It was licensed by Disney, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but they just didn't want.
I have no idea. I think it's to do with, if it's not the actual actors who's doing it, we can't bring the too much likeness, or maybe it was just because they didn't want me to be like a one woman, like a character show, but so I had to suppress my love for Mulan a little bit for Mulan, and kind of
think of Mulan, but don't sound like Mulan. Don't sound like
exactly. But they have such iconic ways of saying it, and there's memes and things like that, and it was really hard.
Sounds like it. It's a bit of a backwards thinking process. This is great. So is there anything else that where are you most passionate as far as things to do in the voice acting field? What do you feel most passionate about? Or dream project, you know what I mean?
Dream project. I would love to do more video games and maybe animation, because I was a Disney kid. So I would love to go into that and do. But I think I think I love video games just because maybe I just got it really good off the get-go with Division 2, especially with the people working in it as well. But it was so collaborative and it was just so visceral. Like, it didn't give me time. It was just like, okay, you're on fire and you're screaming down the street and go. And you have like no time to think, but you just go for it. And that was so fun. And I think that just gave me like a good kind of like nudge into video game and my preference in that. But of course, I come from Japan and I love anime, so would love to voice characters from an anime, especially for projects that I really enjoy and love. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do those auditions come through to your agent? Do you get anime auditions?
Not yet. I think I'm quite new to the pool over here. So I think, but also I feel like I need to do more training on it. So yeah, hopefully more training begets more work and
Yes.
opportunities and stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
That's a great goal. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us, Akira. It was really a pleasure to hear especially how you approach your characters for the different parts that you do, which I think is vital information for voice actors, upcoming voice actors. My audience is people that range that are just curious, and then some people that are actually doing voiceovers. So it's a lot of helpful information. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was just so fun talking about this and just kind of like revisiting things, and it was great questions. Yeah.
So you have your own website, obviously. Give us your website address.
It should be akiraleewatanabe.com.
Very simple, very straightforward. Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me today. That wraps up another episode of the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Head over to voiceover.guru. We are back in the swing. It's 2025, doing our online workouts and all that good fun stuff. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Real talk about the voiceover industry. Learn more about us and get coaching at voiceover.guru.